Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience Podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual, and today is the Friday episode, and I'm just going to get this right off the bat. I'm planning on this being the last Friday episode until further notice. I know I haven't gotten around to doing posting a poll on the page about it. Obviously, I'm very sorry about that. I've just been very busy with schoolwork, and, I just haven't had time to, just make the post and think about it. But I think for right now, it's better that I only do the Wednesday episode, but I will do at least 2 Friday episodes a month. And I'll make that very clear when you guys should be expecting one. I'm not just going to pop it out at random and, hope you guys figure it out. No, I'll let you guys know. But obviously, today is the last Friday episode for now, at least until I decide when is appropriate time to bring them back. Because I really like the schedule. I like doing the double upload a week. To me, it's very helpful for growth, and at the same time, it allows me to cover more topics and not just leave you guys, I'd say wandering without something to listen to, because obviously you guys keep coming back and listening to the show, and I'm very appreciative of that, and I'm very grateful. But on to today's topic. And this one, it is a comparison video, but we're not doing like the stereotypical, YouTube tech comparison video where we just go down the specs and then be like, oh, this has a better spec, blah, 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 blah. No, we're not doing that. We are going to be doing a comparison between two phones that I'd say are very similar, because these are the two, in my opinion, the heavy hitters of Android right now. It'd be the OnePlus 7 Pro and then the Note 10 Plus. And the reason I wanted to do a comparison between these phones is because they target I'd say, almost similar markets. But there are pros and cons to each one, and I do want to present the pros and cons for each side realistically and let you guys come to the decision. Like, I have preferences of my own, but I will make this clear when we are doing this discussion and breakdown of these two phones and comparing them. One thing we have to keep in mind is everybody's use case is different. Nobody uses their phones for the exact same reason as another person. Everybody has a specific reason for using a specific phone, people buy budget phones because they don't need the latest and greatest, and they just need a phone that calls and texts. Some people buy phones that can drive their expensive headphones. There's people that only buy a phone because it has a good camera, or people that buy it because it's integrated with their ecosystem, or, just has a lot of juice under the hood. So there's many reasons, but to me, these two phones target a similar audience because they're targeting power users, and based on how it's going, they're also targeting content creators or, pro users. And I want to start with the OnePlus 7 Pro because I haven't really talked about this phone, and I do have more experience using it since this is my daily driver. As obviously, I posted a picture a while back when I bought the phone, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So this at least allows me to share my experience using the phone so far, and then let you guys know how I feel about it. So I don't really need to give a rundown of specs, but if you guys really want me to, I don't mind. Obviously it goes up to 12 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage. That storage is UFS 3.0, and we will talk about that as well because that is a very, very handy tool to have. Obviously, the main selling factor is the beautiful display that's obviously 90 hertz as well, the 1440p QHD plus 90 hertz display. Obviously, 4,000 milliamp hour battery, warp charge 30, fast charging. Obviously, the audio, it has dual speakers, noise cancellation support, and then Dolby Atmos certified. And obviously, it's an in-display fingerprint reader along with face unlock. Top of the line specs, Snapdragon 855, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. So to me, the way my mind going in the purchasing process when I was looking for a new phone, I was like, okay, my Pixel 2 XL is becoming way too slow. I love the camera, but it's dying on me way too much. And I just can't live with these compromises anymore. So I was like, okay, it's time to get a new phone, because obviously the Pixel 2 XL is now about to hit 2 years old now. So it was time that old Yeller got taken out back. And to me, I was like, okay, I can either wait for the Pixel 4, I can buy the OnePlus 7 Pro, or I can buy an S10 Plus, or wait for the Note 10. And to me, I was like, well, I want to go with the OnePlus because I love my OnePlus 6. And I'm really pissed on what happened in the situation with my OnePlus 6 and selling it and then ended up getting scammed out of it. I was really upset about that situation, but I was never mad at the phone. My main downside with it was just the camera, and we will talk about that because this still seems to be an area where OnePlus is still lacking, and it's not a hardware issue. And I will agree with Juan and Carlos Bagnell on this, where he talked about his findings and doing an entire video dedicated to breaking down the camera of the OnePlus 7 Pro and putting it through its paces. And Juan stated in the video that the camera, in terms of hardware, the hardware is there. It's the software that needs more tweaking and needs more fine-tuning. And to me, I agree wholeheartedly because, yes, I do see that it's just not as good as my Pixel. But we do have to keep in mind that when we go into the flagship area of specs, or specifically a flagship level phones, the camera becomes the least important factor because they're so similar and they're all so good, just good in different ways. And I want us to keep that in mind. But obviously, to me, the main, I'd say, drawing power for the OnePlus 7 Pro was the software, the specs, and overall the community behind it is what made me want to make that switch and finally make a OnePlus my daily driver for a long period, because I do plan on keeping this phone for 2+ years because there's a lot under them that makes them last this long. And one example would be Ryan, my friend Ryan. He's been on the show a couple times. Ryan had the 3T and he had that since 2015, 2016. And he recently upgraded to the 7 Pro. So he's had it for over 3+ years. And that's astonishing that OnePlus has been updating their phones that long, that the fact that the 3 and the 3T were still getting Android 9 updates. So that was crazy enough. And that made me feel like, okay, they are consistent with their updates. And that's what makes it good. Obviously, they're part of the Google new beta program that they're doing to help roll out Android updates a lot easier now. And it makes sense because when we talk about software, OnePlus is well known for their software because of their skin of Android that's so fast, Oxygen OS. And to me, I like it more than stock Android due to the fact that it's just as clean as stock Android. It's just as fluid and smooth, but it has such rich customization that it's not even funny because you can make the phone look how you want. And some people might say, well, Josh, this is a feature of Android in general. What makes this phone's customization so special? And it mainly just comes down to the software staying so clean. And to me, that's very important because I really like clean software on my phone. I like when the phone looks nice, not just physically in terms of hardware, but in terms of the software, that it runs clean and it doesn't bog down my phone. And to me, that's very important. Now, I get it. Some people will be like, well, Josh, software is not a very important thing. And I will argue, no, if it wasn't an important thing, then why is everybody, hurrying up to try to get their software caught up? And we'll talk about this when we talk about the Note 10 Plus, or really the Note 10 in general, because there's two of them. But if software wasn't a big deal, then why is everyone placing such a big emphasis on software and cleaning it up and making it better? And to me, OnePlus has been doing an incredible job. Oxygen OS has been running great. Obviously, the fact that it's getting software updates just as fast as the Pixels is very astonishing. So it's really good that they're doing all this. And to me, it's very nice that I have a phone that will be getting consistent updates, that they will be guaranteed updates because they have a healthy track record of showing they can support these phones for a long period of time. Now, in terms of specs and hardware, yes, this phone definitely is a juggernaut because mine is the almond variant, but the almond variant caps at 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. The max, that's essentially the max storage option for these phones. I just didn't get the most RAM because I wanted the almond color more than the Nebula blue, but some people get on my grill about that. But the hardware, obviously top of the line specs, we don't need to go over it, but there are some key features that are important with these specs, and that includes the display, the battery, and then the storage itself, because as I mentioned, it is UFS 3.0. And what does that really mean? And there's also more to it that I will say. The USB-C port is very important as well. And when we talk about it, the storage itself is UFS 3.0. So what that really means is it's essentially faster read and write speeds for the internal storage. So I remember I saw the picture where somebody did the clock speed. It was like 1400. So it's clearly faster than your typical SSD. And because of that more write speed on the say the storage inside of it, I was about to call it an SSD, but let's call it the storage inside the phone, you're able to move files a lot more quickly. It's able to handle the processes inside the phone much more effectively. And things will load faster, and the phone it's not because it will make it feel faster, but there are applications that rely on the internal storage that makes it boot up quicker. It's the same thing with like having an SSD compared to a hard drive in your computer. Some games will load faster with an SSD compared to a hard drive. And the same logic applies here. So it's very important that they did that. It was the first phone that actually released that was UFS 3.0, because the Galaxy Fold was UFS 3.0, but it didn't release. So that's why I said it technically is the first phone to release with that type of storage, even though the Galaxy Fold already had it. And so we call it the first by technicality because it actually released compared to the Galaxy Fold. But yeah. Also, another little side thing that not that many people talk about, it actually does have a USB 3.1 port. So that's the USB Type-C Gen 1. So really nice. Obviously the battery, 4,000 milliamp hour battery. That's great. The display is definitely what's the most interesting part to me. The 90 hertz display. A lot of people love this feature. This feature has been talked about in every tech YouTuber's video, that they always keep talking about this display because they think every phone should have this kind of display. And I think it's a good blend. I think having it at 90 over 120 makes more logical sense to me, because I get it. Like, there's these people that talk about these high refresh rate screens on phones and everything like that. But even then, like, we don't need crazy refresh rate screens on phones, because these are smartphones. These aren't, like, some people say mobile gaming is increasing, but I like to make the argument that it's not really that important. Mobile gaming is okay at best. Like, it's not, like, I get it, like, that, yeah, you can play Fortnite and stuff like that and PUBG and stuff like that on your phone, but it doesn't really make that much sense. Like, it's kind of, I wouldn't say weird, but it doesn't make that much logical sense, in my opinion. And to me, the display is a very, very nice thing. Obviously, yes, it will lower your battery life, since that is a drawback of having a higher refresh rate display, because every phone caps out at 60 hertz normally, and then you have the phones like the Razer Phone 2 or the original Razer phone or the Oneplus 7 Pro, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you have these phones that have this high refresh rate. And to me, it was really nice using it. I like using the 90 hertz. I always have it on. Obviously, yes, I sacrifice battery life because of it. And I do believe that OnePlus should make a toggle for it, that they did the same thing for the resolution of the phone, that actually has a toggle in the settings where you can change it so that depending on the situation, it will either use a 1080p, it will either drop to 1080p or go full 1440p. I think they shouldn't implement a software feature where you can switch between the 60 and 90 hertz depending on the task you're doing, because then battery life would be so much better. It would, like, when I drop it just to 60 hertz, obviously my phone, even with 90 hertz, my phone has lasted the entire day without much issue. I think, though, if we had the toggle with like just toggling, it would be much better battery life. but that's obviously a downside to having this much nicer display. Realistically, there are downsides. We're not going to stand here and pretend like there isn't. But overall, oh wait, we left out the one feature, the camera. So I actually have the phone in front of me. We are working with a triple camera setup. Obviously, there is the main sensor, which is 48 megapixels, or megapixel. I like it when people say that, megapixel. It's so weird. And then we have the telephoto lens. That's 3 times optical zoom. And then obviously the super wide angle lens. To me, it's really nice to have this diverse camera set. And to me, it's very important that you give the consumers the option of having a diverse camera set. Obviously, some people say, what about the pixels? Well, we'll deal with them when they come out because, Google's about to put multiple lenses on the back of those phones anyway. So my opinion with the camera is I kind of agree with how many people put it, but I also agree with Juan on this one where it's not as bad as people are making it out to be because the hardware is there. Very impressive hardware, but the software does need to be tweaked a little bit more, needs to be refined more to help match up with its impressive hardware because the hardware is all there. It's in terms of hardware, it is a great camera. It has everything you want, but its software does need help because you have things like shutter lag and then you have things like image processing and things like that. And this really just comes down to just software tweaks because the hardware is all there. It just takes time to improve and refine it. And to me, that's how I view it. But aside from that, overall, I think the phone is incredible, in my opinion. It's one of my favorite phones I've had in a long time, and I'm a hard guy to please when it comes to phones, because everybody makes the joke that I like switching my phones like I change underwear, which, they say that because I change phones like very regularly, so it's like, I don't know. To me, this phone feels like this is the winner that I'm sticking with because there's a lot of power under the hood, and to me, it just fits my use case. Now, let's go to the Note 10 and Note 10 Plus. Obviously, these are Samsung's latest offerings, clearly. Obviously, the average Note fan is already familiar with the Note lineup because, you already bought one before. But there are some benefits. Now, do I believe that the Note 10 is an upgrade over the Note 9? That's a really good question. To me, I'd say yes and no, and I'll tell you why for each one. I say yes, it clearly is an upgrade in terms of specs, more cameras, things like that, like the in-display. Well, depending if you consider the in-display fingerprint sensor a upgrade or not, bigger display, but there's also downsides. The downsides are you obviously lose that phone jack. You no longer have a physical, fingerprint sensor anymore. And at the same time, you're not really getting much out of it, because one thing I did like more about having the Notes as one lineup, as just one phone, was there would be no separation in features. That, this is why I say it's kind of the same thing with Google and Apple. What they do when they make the different size of their phones, they are the exact same phone, same camera, same everything, and the only difference is just a bigger battery and bigger display. That's it. That's all the difference happens. But for some reason, Samsung decided to shaft the Note fans and then essentially make the Note 10 not as good compared to the 10 Plus. And we're not talking about little differences. We're talking about capping storage, capping RAM, taking away the micro SD card slot, taking away some sensors, taking away the 1440p display. Like, there are some drawbacks, and that's why they're pushing you towards the Plus. And to me, I don't want to use the Note 10 because, like I said, it's a very limited phone, so we're only going to use the Plus. So what are we getting with the Plus? What are we getting with the Plus version? So obviously, top of the line specs, not really the, not really that much different. The specs are the exact same. The main difference is obviously an increase in storage. Obviously, it goes up to 512 gigabytes internal. That's all UFS 3.0. And then with the micro SD card slot, you can get up to 1 terabyte extra. So pretty much the same. Caps out at 12 gigabytes of RAM, things like that. And then you got obviously the S Pen. Ooh, the S Pen. That is an interesting thing. The S Pen. And then one other thing I will say is obviously water resistance is another big thing that the phones have been having for a long time. IP68 water and dust resistance. Obviously, in-display fingerprint sensor, the power button, everything that's actually now mixed with the Siri button. So they actually put the Bixby button and they put the power button together. So if you like Bixby, then great. If you don't, you can just toggle it in the power setting because they changed it up in the software, and essentially not that much. Obviously, if we're talking about the Plus, it's a 6.7 inch display. Let me fact check that just to be safe, because I also have the things I don't have the phone in front of me, but I know I have like the specs and everything. Actually, no, 6.8 inch display. Correction. The OnePlus 7 Pro is a 6.7 inch display. Overall, in terms of specs, same. We have the same thing. So obviously, we have a teardrop notch in the front, very like square shaped phone as the Notes usually are. Then at the same time, we have the triple camera setup again. So the only difference is instead of they're both vertical. It's just one has it in the corner and the other has it in the center of the phone. And then in terms of more storage, yes, obviously the Note 10 Plus has more storage than the OnePlus. We're not going to stand here and lie. Yes, it does. They're both running UFS 3.0 and both don't have headphone jacks. Now, one thing that is interesting to me, and this is where Samsung has definitely been the most lacking, but they have made incredible improvements, and it's in software. The One UI definitely helped the Samsung experience. Overall, it did. It helped it to an unimaginable amount, helping clean up the UI and just making things so much cleaner. And I think this has always been a big drawback with Samsung phones is the software, because Samsung doesn't like to update their phones that much. And that's what makes I wouldn't say it makes them hard to buy, but you also have to be mindful you're not going to be getting security updates as consistently as you wanted them to be. And I get it. Like, there's obviously tension between Google and Sony. Not Sony, Samsung, really. I'm sorry about that. There's obviously tension. We're not going to stand here and pretend there isn't. These companies definitely have some beef. And this is kind of the main reason why Samsung actually partnered with Microsoft and why these phones come with Microsoft Office on them. Why they're doing this partnership with the Note 10 Plus to integrate it with Windows and everything like that. So we definitely have something interesting going on, clearly. And there are some software features that are also exclusive to the Note. So the built-in video editor, which is really nice for content creators. Like, even though, yes, it is, Juan has stated that it is a very, very basic video editor that is just making quick snippets and things like that. Like, you're not going to do something very intensive. But at the same time, one benefit with the Samsung phones is they are the only Android phones that can run Adobe Rush CC. They actually run it on, like, they're the only phones that allow you to download them all. And to me, that kind of sucks because you have a lot of very powerful Android phones that can run that app as well. And for people that already have the Adobe suite, it just makes sense to use Rush CC on your phone because you already have it. It backs up to the cloud and, things like that. Obviously, yes, for content creators, the Note is a very popular phone for content creation due to the fact that the S Pen is a very, very handy tool when editing video on the go. And at the same time, with the big storage options and the fact that it is UFS 3.0 now, you're able to edit those bigger files and move bigger file footage into the phone, especially with the phones now being able to record 4K 60. So there is a lot of benefits. Clearly, we're not going to stand here and pretend there isn't. But in terms of hardware, I do believe Samsung already provided a much better phone. And keep in mind, we haven't even discussed prices yet. And this is where I make the argument that realistically, the Note 10 Plus is a skip. And I've already mentioned this before in an episode. We've already done an episode over the Note 10 Plus already. And to me, it is a skip because of this reason, is the price. Because you're losing features. Like the regular Note 10, I get it. Like some people want a smaller Note, but at some compromises. We're not going to stand here. There is compromises. And it's not good compromises, if we're being honest. And I'd say to me, when I think about it personally, when we think about price, when we want to, like, let's just bring up price now while we're at it. So the 7 Pro, specifically the 7 Pro, we have in total, like I told you, there's different variants. So if we go with the starting model, which is 6GB RAM, 128GB of storage, starts at $669. All this is US prices. Then you bump up to the double the storage and extra 256 of RAM. It goes up to $699. And then the max 12GB, 256GB of storage is $749. So about like 7, well, depending on your state taxes, like at least under 800, at least, maybe. And then we jump up to the Note. This is where, oh boy, this is where it gets fun because, like I said, we have 2 different prices. The regular Note, if I'm looking at this correctly, the base model of the regular Note starts at $949.99 US. That's 256GB of storage. And there also is exclusive offers inside of this as well. So keep this in mind. Samsung has been doing this for a while where they have included special offers inside. You know, you have the trade-in value and things like that, which will lower the price. But also, I will say, in my opinion, be careful with the Samsung trade-in system because it is pretty sketchy. So be careful with that, guys. I will be honest with you. Be very, very careful with it. And then we move up to, because like some of the offers that they have are like 6 months of Spotify Premium, and then you get 4 months of ad-free YouTube, and then trade-in and everything like that. And then when we go up to the Note 10 Plus, you get, the price jumps up to an extra $1,999. So that's a lot of money. I'm not even gonna stand here and tell you guys that's a lot of money. Like, I literally choked because of how much that is. Like, that's absurd. Like, I know. We live in the day and age where smartphones cost over $1,000 regularly. And to me, that doesn't mean that it's justifiable. And to me, when I view it, the Note 10 Plus specifically just seems like an easy way to gouge money out of Samsung fans. It is not that big of an upgrade over the Note 9 because you're losing some of these quote-unquote pro features. Yes, I get it. The built-in video editor won't be on the Note 9. I get it. But you still keep a headphone jack. Samsung may not make the best headphone jack and put it in those phones, but for many professionals, they like keeping it so they can use external microphones. So when they're recording, say, 4K 60 video, they can use an external microphone. And there's more, I'd say, clearer audio instead of relying specifically on the microphones on the phone themselves. And to me, that was always been, I'd say, the sole reason for content creation to keep the headphone jack. And I kind of agree with Juan when he talked about the LG phones and his experience with the LG, is it's made to do these kind of things. It's specifically designed for people wanting to be professional video editors. Because, like I said, LG's, camera software is very, very robust, and I'm very familiar with it because I remember it on my G6. It is a very robust system that has many features that allow you to do so much detail in terms of editing video on a phone. And that's why many people consider the G6 a better camera overall compared to the competition at its time. And that mainly comes down to, its software was incredible and it had the wide angle lens and you could do much more. Yes, it was handicapped because they put last year's processor, the A21 instead of the A35 in it, but you get what I'm saying. Obviously, then RAM wasn't that much of a big deal until OnePlus started making it a big deal. But to me, I personally prefer the OnePlus 7 Pro in my use case due to the fact that if you are a power user and you are relying on a phone that can handle anything you throw at it and at the same time give you a great experience, then I would go for the OnePlus 7 Pro because the software is much cleaner. I love One UI, but Oxygen OS is definitely more advanced and it's more healthier and sustainable due to the fact that I'd say in terms of getting software updates from Google, yeah, you're going to get the big Android updates more commonly on the OnePlus phones. And some people say, well, what about the ecosystem? Okay, this thing is where it gets a little bit trickier because both, I get it, Samsung has their own ecosystem and things like that. Like, I get it. You have the Galaxy Buds and, the phone has reverse wireless charging in it. So you can charge those earbuds, and then you have the Bixby speaker coming, and then you got, all the fridges and things like you got all this stuff. To me, it's not that important. I like the Galaxy watches more than Android watches because they're just overall better watches. They are. They're just overall better. I'm not going to stand here and pretend it. Yeah, they are. It's more secure, and it runs much smoother. And they actually look nicer, too, to be honest. But I don't know. I like the Fossil ones, but that's aside from the point. But OnePlus does have a good ecosystem as well. They have their own earbuds. They have, all the cases for their phones on their websites. The charging bricks, you can get it from their website, so you don't have to worry about breaking anything. They sell the fast car charger, which is actually really important. The fast car charger is ridiculously fast for a car charger. And OnePlus obviously can control all of that, and they can do financing deals and give discounts for students. Samsung does the same thing, but in terms of ecosystem, this really isn't that big of a debate. Your phone is your phone, and I tell you guys, I don't recommend being trapped in just one ecosystem. I always recommend having multiple devices and having a broad aspect, because you can dedicate each machine to do one specific thing. And that's kind of like my logic behind it. I have a Windows PC, but my laptop, well, quote unquote laptop, is my iPad, and I can sync these up to these two things very well together in terms of software that I use on my iPad, that it syncs up with my Windows machine. And then obviously my phone is Android, and dub. So I'm obviously definitely more open, at least. In my opinion, guys, if you're looking for a new phone, and if you are a power user, and not I wouldn't say not having the best camera, but having a great camera is fine with you, the OnePlus 7 Pro is better value, because you're spending less and you're getting more out of it, because you're getting 256 gigabytes of storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM. You're getting a very, very beautiful phone. It is beautiful. I will give it that. A very beautiful phone. Obviously, a 90 hertz display, big battery, 1440p display, and a good storage inside of it as well. To me, it makes sense, because you're not paying more for less. If you're a Note fan, then I would just not. If you have a Note 9, don't upgrade. If you have an S10, definitely don't upgrade. Why would you upgrade? It's not even an upgrade. I would consider the Note 10 a downgrade to the S10 Plus, is how I would view it. It is a downgrade, because the S10 Plus has a 4,100 milliamp hour battery. Yes, it's not as big as the Note 10, but you keep the headphone jack, you get a big display, you get the same cameras. But keep in mind, the cameras are the exact same on the Note 10 and the S10. Exact same sensors, no difference. Keep this in mind. It is the exact same phone. It's just blocky. The S is obviously more curved, and it doesn't have the S Pen, but even then, all the little gesture features that they added with the Note 10 aren't that impressive. They're just niche features. And some people will say, Josh, how can you say that's a niche? You know how people love the S Pen? Yes, I know people love the S Pen, but at the same time, that doesn't mean I can't be honest about it and call it what it is. It's a niche feature. Not the pen itself. The pen is very useful when used in the right instances. But the extra gyro sensor, no, it's a niche thing. It's like a party trick is all it is. It doesn't help the phone overall. And yeah, I get it. Having a built-in video editing software is nice, but even then, it's very limited, very, very limited. It's only meant to just edit, you can't even edit the video. It's just making little snippet clips, essentially. That's all it's for. But I personally believe in my use case, and for people that share a similar use case as me, if you're people that care heavily about software, performance, and you care more about the phone being able to last longer rather than just, I'd say, how would I put it? If you're willing to have a phone last longer on you, it makes more sense to go with the OnePlus 7 Pro. Now, there are compromises. You obviously don't get as much storage. You don't have expandable storage either. You don't have water resistance. Case support is a little bit more wonkier because OnePlus isn't as big as Samsung, but even then, OnePlus does have you covered, and there's other partners that make really good cases as well. There are some drawbacks too. Like the Note 10, yes, the main drawbacks are mainly hardware features, because I get it. The Note 10 really just felt like a software update for the Note 9. And that's not even, to me, that's very sad, because I love the Note 9. When it came out, I was drooling. I was actually about to buy a Note 9, if I'm being honest with you. Like, I was about to send in my Pixel, get the Note 9, and get on my way. But I thought against it because of the whole Samsung trade-in thing, so that's why I tell you guys be careful with that stuff. But overall, I hope this video was very informative for you guys. I know that, this is a more opinionated discussion, and I hope you guys have this discussion yourself and, do more of the research yourself. Like, where are you willing to compromise, or what phone specifically fits your need? What fits what you're using it for? What are you exactly using it for? And ask yourself these questions because they're very important. But I thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. It really means a lot to me. You guys keep coming back. We're almost at 500 downloads, so I'm really grateful about that. Thank you guys so much for all your love and support. It means the world to me. I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart because to me, it's how I feel. I'm grateful. I thank you guys very much for that. Humbled. I'm incredibly blessed to have this opportunity to even have you guys listen to me and even give me this chance to talk with you and share with you what's on my mind about these topics in technology and business and the video game world. Even though we haven't done that much video game news recently, we will be doing that next week. But until then, thank you guys so much for your time. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. You guys take care of yourselves. Don't do anything dumb, because I know some people are going to be telling me that because it's the first football game this weekend and tech fans are crazy. So wish me luck. Keep me in your thoughts and prayers. I love you guys to death. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.